All right. Yeah. Sorry everyone for that weird start. Yeah, YouTube backend's giving me issues. Anyway, welcome everyone to the Toku Portal podcast. It's me Zero here with Decade. Did you say something? Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, I guess Discord up everyone.
Okay. Um. Yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on. Okay. Well, your voice is coming through on the video on YouTube, so I'm thinking it's working. But like I literally have to have like everything closed except OBS going on my computer right now. Hopefully it works out. Anyway, yeah. So episode 15 of Zi-O. Yeah, another really good episode. Actually, like really good episode. Uh, I mean, it really does look like the show's finally hitting its stride. It's mostly because they've gotten all the cameo writers out. I mean, like Kabuto's left, maybe. That's about it, I think, right? Oh, Kuga also, and Dina. Yeah, so like three of them, I think. Anyway, your initial thoughts on this episode, Decade?
Yeah, overall, it's pretty much what I wanted. We're actually focusing on Zio's story, actually getting some of the mysteries brought to light, especially with that dream that he had as a kid. That's definitely unexpected.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised too because like I wasn't expecting any of like the king or dream to become king stuff to be answered this soon, but man, that's what I'm saying. This episode finally like starting to put like the pieces back. I mean, especially since Decade has shown up, which is weird, but like maybe the show just needed like, somebody who could kind of lead the way or be like a no, it's more like it needed somebody who was kind of an ongoing element in the plot, whereas like all the other ones have kind of been like like extremely episodic, and so they couldn't build on anything. Plus, because Decade's here and his whole thing is like, I had a evil destiny or, you know, thing too. So basically, he's the guy who's seen it, done it, and basically had to go through the same thing. So he's like the best guy to give advice or be around because, like, his destiny was to destroy the world. Like, his best option was just throw his belt away too. But, like, he still figured out a way to become a writer, like a good guy. um he didn't like change his personality too much, but like he didn't have like an original like super heroic thing going on, but he still managed to become a decent writer. So maybe like he was the best guy to help Zio, I guess. Yeah, any thoughts on Decade?
Yeah, he's definitely a really good plot device, but once you hear how much worse Amazio is compared to Decade, it's like, holy crap. He literally halved the human population during his rule. So he makes Decade just seem like a wonderful guy, even as the leader of Shocker or whatever. That's insane.
Yeah, I
And
mean, yeah.
Sogo is 100% Omazio. There's no question anymore.
Yeah, it's good that we got the confirmation. I mean, like, I didn't really have too much of a doubt, but, like, it's always good for them to say it because then they can't BS their way out of it later on. It's always good, especially in, like, a time travel thing, because then you're like, oh no, like, this whole thing of, like, oh, you thought your hero was actually going to become a bad guy, but no, it was somebody else. Like, thank God they didn't do that fucking cop out. But yeah, halving the human population, that's rough. To be fair, we don't know what caused that because Omazio keeps going on like, "Hey, I saved humanity." Like either he's got like a Thanos thing going on where it's like, "Hey, humanity was gonna get destroyed if I didn't like cull the herd or whatever," or something else was gonna take out humanity, and I actually did protect the human race, but I had to take over. So like, he might not be a super bad guy, but then again, like maybe they're just like, maybe he's just twisted and he thinks he's doing a good thing. It's interesting that they confirmed it either way. Um, the more interesting thing is like who was in the flashback, right? So is that like older Amazio going talking to his like young self, or is that somebody else? Was that Was that Sukasa possibly? Because like Sukasa just like ripped open a portal 50 years in the future. I mean, like it's good that the show remembered that he has weird portal powers, like dimension rift abilities. So hey, that's a good use of it. But you know, it's interesting. Well, it'll depend who it is. Like it'd be really interesting because like I mean, like it might be somebody like Was or something, and like it's just future Was, right? I don't know. Any theories?
Yeah, it's. I'm thinking it's just someone completely new because it didn't seem like it was Amazio. Well, it didn't sound like him either. But one kind of silly theory I thought of was that like, what if his uncle was the evil mastermind
Oh,
behind
that's what I was
everything?
thinking when they had the lights on, and it's like, oh, you can't see his face, and I'm like, oh, it's his uncle. But no. I mean, like, okay, you know what? But are you saying like if his uncle is the guy who went back in time and talked to like Kid Sogo, or like is Omazio? Because at first I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna take off
The
the curtains
flashback.
and it's gonna be his uncle. That would be hilarious because he's like the nicest character in the whole show, right? Uh, but then you brought up the uncle thing. I'm like, oh shit, are they gonna pull a decade again? And like his uncle is actually the evil mastermind, just like in Decade.
Hmm.
So I'm like, that would be funny if we actually had that. Yeah, I mean, it could be somebody we know, it could be somebody else, but you're right, it's a little too early. As for the voice thing, after the whole White Wizard thing, like, I can't trust Toei. I'm
No,
like, oh
true
no,
that.
it's a different voice, like, that doesn't mean anything,
True
right? Like,
that.
White Wizard literally had 3 voice actors, so, so it doesn't count. Like, like, for his different forms and the actual guy when they cast him, so that could be anything. Um, yeah. I guess this is weirdly a really like a lot happened, but it's like one story. Normally we go beat by beat because like you have multiple storylines going on, but like in here it's mostly like one thing. It's like Sogo finally realizing that like no, he can't pretend that he's not going to become an evil guy, right? So it's basically one story, which is interesting and nice. Um but it also means we could just pretty much talk about each character and we would basically discuss what happened in this episode. So I guess we'll start with like the least important ones for the story anyway. The time jackers. They were kind of just here. They're shocked that like Amazio is like moved up the timeline. So like even they don't have any idea what the hell's going on. They're just theorizing that them just being here messing around has caused the escalated timeline, but they don't know. So yeah, they were around. Your thoughts on them this episode?
Uh, yeah, not a whole lot. I don't know, maybe I'll do something next episode. But as far as Gates goes, he, uh, I mean, he got good character development because he actually admitted that He's been indecisive. But on the other hand, a horrible writer. So the last arc, he got his ass beat by Decade, and now Decade has to save him. Like, come on, Banjo had more respect, and he wasn't even a writer yet. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, I agree. Like the worst part is like it's yeah, you're right. Banjo had more respect than this, and he barely got any in build. Um, it's weird. It's mostly like the plot treats like Gates as like, oh, he's important, but like his actions don't show that much. Like like the thing is, at this point, I have more respect for Tsukiyomi for what she did in this episode than Gates. Right? Like, I mean, I'm amazed she doesn't have like insane like I was gonna say rug burn, but it was on the pavement from that slide kick. But at least she fucking did something. Whereas like Gates just talks a lot. I mean, like the stuff he says makes sense, but he's always ineffective. Like he's literally never won anything ever at this point. You know, and it's like you can't do that to the secondary writer. And it's not that he was terrible. Like his out of suit stuff was good. The problem is he has a writer belt, so he has to have some victories. You know, that's kind of sad. Um. Anyway, speaking from Gates to Amazio's subordinate, what did you think of that guy? He came from the future. He had a pretty nice suit. Um, it was interesting that he doesn't just blindly follow whatever the hell Sogo says, even though he's a subordinate, but he's like clearly Amazio's subordinate, so he knows, yeah, I had to take out Gates and Tsukiyomi, right? But like, and protect Sogo, but after that, like, he can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. That was interesting. I liked his design, but yeah, I mean, like, at first when he showed up, I'm like, holy shit, Amazio is a straight up Sentai villain, right? Like, if the guy he sent back just grew giant size, Amazio straight up would be a Sentai villain. I mean, like, I know Ryder has villains like this, but it's been a while since we've had one that just sends out minions. I mean, like, I guess Build kind of had it, but it felt different because they were kind of mindless. Like, they haven't had, like, servants in a while. Yeah. Your thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm kind of curious as to what his role is going to be because, I mean, it seems like Omasio's so powerful he doesn't even need servants, but I don't know. Maybe this guy will turn out to be interesting, but yeah, he does look pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. He doesn't seem like he needs servants, but it's maybe people who are just loyal to him. And he's been ruling for, like, decades at this point, so he must have, like, people who follow him, right? Like, he is a king. You can't be a king if you don't have subjects, right? Um, yeah, it's interesting. Like, it'd be interesting if he sticks around, becomes a recurring character or something. That'd be kind of cool, but who knows? He might just be defeated next episode. I'm amazed he wasn't defeated this episode. But I guess he was mostly there to just move the plot along. You know what's interesting? It's like the robot things show up, and then like they come out of nowhere. Like I wonder if like Amazio sent them, or if somebody else sent them, and like Amazio defeats them and takes their tech. Like I'm getting that vibe, but I don't know. It could be 50-50. Thoughts?
I'm sorry, you said where they got the tech?
Yeah, I mean like the robot just shows up, right? And then it's like I feel like in the future it's Amazio's tech, right? But I feel like the one that just showed up isn't Amazio's, or like there's a chance that it's somebody else's robot, and then Omazio defeats that guy and takes their robot and conquers the world with that tech.
Yeah, that's the real mystery is where the heck did these belts come from? those giant freaking robots come from that let Amasio take over the world. That's that other one of the mysteries. Because it doesn't seem like Sogo's smart enough to build all that shit.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, like, you can say in time he would do it, but I'm like, he specifically saw in the past that, like, he was trying to defeat these things, right? So, like, it doesn't seem likely that he would build them himself. Like, if he stole somebody else's tech, um, it would make way more sense that, like, he thought he became like a kind king or whatever because, like, he actually defeated like some evil motherfucker who was trying to take over the world, but then like the power corrupted him. But then again, like, this could just be a theory of us trying to make this show more interesting than it is. Like, I hope it gets answered, but like, who knows when that'll happen, right? It took like 15 episodes just to get this, oh, why do you want to be a king thing answered, right? I mean, admittedly, it's an interesting answer, but it just took a while. Um, I guess the next character is Waz. Like, Waz just shows up and is just hanging around. He has another clock. Where does he keep finding those? I mean, I guess he's a time traveler, but yeah, it's interesting. Um, he also says what he actually wants now. It's like, yeah, I want you to become the king, who's basically right, like the super militaristic leader, right? So, I mean, at least we know which timeline he wants, right? I also like that moment where like him and Decade are just standing leaning against the rail and like Gates is in between them, and it's and Waz basically says, "Yeah, I just do whatever the fuck I want." And then us beside him is like Decade, who's basically, you know, the Kamen Rider of I do whatever the fuck I want. Um, and then Gates is like, "Yeah, I'll just do what I want to," and he leaves. I'm like, well, if you're gonna take a lesson from these guys, I guess that's the number one lesson you would get. Yeah. Thoughts on Was this episode?
I just loved how happy he was that everything's spinning out of control for Sogo, and he's kind of being pushed into the role of Omazio. But I'm wondering what he'll do next episode, because it seems like that's going to be, I guess, the beginning of a new arc or the end of this one. I don't know. But Walsh
Yeah.
is going to have to do something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I kind of got spoiled, so I know he might get some shit going on, but I don't know when that's gonna happen. Um, but yeah, you're right. It was nice to see him actually kind of happy, and get like, oh, that's what I actually want to happen. So, hey, it's good that he gets a little more focus. Um, who's next? Uh, I guess Tsukiyomi, because we did Gates. Like, at least she got a couple moments to shine this episode. She didn't get a lot, but hey, you know, finally she gets to have some moments. That was nice. Thoughts on her?
Yeah, it seems like we're kind of getting back to. It felt a bit like the first episode when they were traveling through time and she was explaining stuff. So, at least she has some sort of use as a narrator ish. But yeah, Gates is still not that great.
Yeah, which is sad because like he's not terrible. He's just like, oh, I have to take out Sogo. I've been too naive. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. And he's like, oh, you know what the worst part is? Like whenever he says like, oh, I have to take you out. Like it might be just because it's the way it's shot. Like I never feel the threat because he's got like the full red suit, right? And it's like going like, oh, I want to take out the villain. I'm like, I'm just remembering like Teruy from like Double, and like how much more like he was ready to just like kick Double's ass. every time, right? Um, Whereas like in this fight, I'm like, it might just be because the way it's shot. Like I don't feel the danger, right? Like okay, I get it. In the shop, there's no danger because like it's a rider show. They're not gonna, punch out a guy. Like I mean, Ryuki did it, but like, um, that hasn't happened in a while. Um, but like I wish like it's not the actor's fault. It's just the way he's written. Where it's like I wish he would get something more menacing or maybe more of a plot line. Yeah, whatever. He was kind of just there as a plot device. I think we've talked about everyone else. Um, yeah, so there's like three characters left. Tsukasa was interesting this episode. Um, I kind of like. I mean, I imagine he's playing like both sides still because he's just like with the time jacker lady, and he's just like, oh yes, I should totally take that Zi-O kid down. It'll be good for all of us. I'm like, man, like, I know you're saying that, but like, I feel like you're bullshitting super hard. And like throughout this whole episode, he's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I love how it's like, uh, Zi-O and him are fighting, and like Zi-O goes like, "Why are you attacking me?" And he like kicks his ass. And is like, "Yeah, give me a sec. I'll think of a reason." Um, and he keeps like fighting. But then like later on, he does the portal thing. So like he clearly had a plan, or at least he figured it out during the fight. Like I don't feel like he's gonna take out Zi-O. Like he seems like, yeah, this is basically exactly what I had to kind of go through, where it's like everybody didn't trust me, thought I was gonna like fuck up the world and all that, but like I turned out okay, so I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. Um, so that was nice. Also, we finally see that yeah, as you guys said, like the new belt is upgraded so you can use riders past his original 10, and that's why the color is different. So I guess that got confirmed. Anyway, your thoughts on Tsukasa this episode?
Yeah, he was great. It is kind of interesting watching him kind of navigate this crazy situation because yeah, it doesn't seem like he wants to like he totally hates Zi-O. I mean, obviously he gave him his watch thingy, but he's pretty much the final solution if he starts becoming Amasio. But I guess he's just figuring it out right now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if there was one writer who would be just like, fuck it, I can't figure this out, I'm just gonna take you out, it'd be like Decade. Um, but yeah, at the meantime, like he's giving him the benefit of the doubt. Um, right. Next character, I guess we'll leave the new character for the end. Soga, what did you think of him this episode? Like, I thought he was okay because, like, we're finally getting his backstory and stuff. So yeah, I thought he was much better this episode. Plus, like, he gets spurred into action where it's like, you know what, fuck you, I don't care. If this is what the future me is, I'm just gonna take you out myself. Um, yeah, so that was great. He was pretty awesome this episode. Well, not awesome, but he was pretty good. Mazio was freaking great, but we'll get to him. Thoughts on Sogo this episode?
Yeah, well, it's definitely interesting watching him because basically his whole plan was to be the nice demon king, so he doesn't become Amasio. But then Amasio says, "Oh yes, I'm the kindest demon king," and it's like, well, shit, there goes my plan. So yeah, just watching him lose it was pretty good, and their little fight was interesting as well. Kind of just a toy show, but it was still pretty cool for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah, at first I was thinking, oh, he's using all the powers of I mean like the showcase was great because it just shows like Amazio's so much better at dealing with this shit than him. And I love okay, we'll get to him. Um but at first I thought when he's using like Kuga I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then he used Kiva, I'm like, "Oh shit." So he's using all the to be king riders. And then he used Ryuki and I'm like, maybe it's just all the riders who won, but then they stopped it there, so I couldn't figure out a pattern. So I'm like, all right, maybe it's just a showcase of things because like they were using a lot of Ryuki shit this episode. It's most likely because we're probably not gonna get a Ryuki thing. Um, Considering he already had the Kiva and the Ryuki and Kuga ride watches somehow, Sogo had those. We're probably not gonna get an episode on those, but then again, it seemed like the radio cameos are most likely this first arcs thing, and going forward, we're probably not gonna get those since we're pretty much gone through most of them at this point. Um, but yeah, it was fun seeing like the dynamic between those two. I also love like yeah, I guess going into Amazio, like I love how he's basically like, yeah, I did exactly what you said that I've been saying all this time, you know? That I'm gonna be the kindest Demon King. I am the kindest Demon King. Half the population's still alive, right? um, and then like I love how he says like, oh, how nostalgic, because he's in like the powered up form. I mean, then again, like that whole like nostalgic thing is kind of just a word. Like it's a very Japanese phrase where it's like they use it a lot more than we like it's not nostalgia, it's basically they have like the word nakashi or neskashi, whatever. The point is it just means nostalgia, but it's more of a common phrase in Japan, so they use it for a lot of stuff. So it's like us saying, oh, rose tinted glasses, but that's kind of having like a negative connotation, whereas like the Japanese one is more like, oh, I remember this thing from my past. Wasn't it great? Or like, oh, it brings back like fond memories kind of thing. So like the Japanese use that phrase more. But I do love how he's pretty much like encouraging him throughout the whole fight. Like he's kicking his ass, but he's like, "Oh, it's good that you got back up, from that attack and you're like coming. It's good. That's a good mindset for a demon king." Oh, I remember this old form, such a throwback. Like he's just basically encouraging him because he knows like he has no chance. That was fucking great. Um yeah, and then like we didn't see his face, but I'm like that's probably because like they couldn't get an actor to just look like him because they're pretty much just gonna use the suit. I'm like, okay, fine. It's okay. We don't need like the suit. I mean, like the suit is enough, right? Like having a dude who looks like older Sogo is just. It would have been nice, but it wouldn't have added that much. Um. Yeah. Um. It is interesting that like it's weird. It looks like the world's more fucked up than it should be. I mean, like half the population's gone, but I'm like, the world would have recovered if like half the population was gone, maybe. Um, but I don't know. It's weird. It's just a thing. Maybe they're just doing a Thanos throwback. Who knows? Yeah, it seemed like the feature seemed interesting, but it's probably they're just saying, "Oh, it's terrible. Just don't think about it. Just we gotta stop Amazio." So they're probably not gonna explain it too much. Also, like nobody noticed when Sogo appears in the future, and there's like a giant statue of him. So that was weird, but like they got ported away pretty quick. um, Also, Amazio doesn't have like a castle or anything, or maybe it's just because he summoned them at this specific location. It's just like a little room with the lights set up. I don't know. Anyway, I've rambled on. Your thoughts on Amazio and future world, which is still weird because the future writers should be around. But I know it's the freaking watches reset the whole timeline. Yeah, whatever.
There's definitely some interesting directing with the way that was all set up. Um, yeah, Elmazio's pretty amusing. Just reminiscing about his past, because being the ruler of the world is probably kind of boring. But it's interesting what he said at the end, like, if you throw the belt away, you won't become me. Well, then that probably means that Gates and Tsukiyomi might disappear. I don't know. And it could be like a belt situation, but I mean, obviously, he's not going to throw away the belt because this is a damn writer show. So it will be interesting to see what he does do, though, because it's a pretty tough situation for him.
Yeah, I mean he it like next week's preview makes it look like he's throwing the thing away. So maybe he does throw it, and then what, like a Liangle belt thing situation where it's like you throw it away, it'll just find its way back. Um, that would be hilarious, but I don't think we're gonna go down. I mean, we might. It would be interesting. Like, yeah, you're right, but it's a writer show. We're not gonna be like, all right, it's 16 episodes, show's over now. Like, not a chance. Um, but yeah, like even Omazi is like, just throw the belt away, dude. That's the only way. That was interesting. Yeah, as you said, the way they shot the future was interesting, especially that fight between Amazio and like Zi-O. That was so good. Like, I mean, not super good, but um, it's much more dynamic than some of the fights we've had in the past in this show, I would say. So that was nice, especially because it's just the boring empty field with two riders throwing energy at each other, but they still managed to make that look decent. So, props to them, I guess. Um, yeah, really solid episode. Anything else you have on this or final thoughts?
Uh, Not really, but yeah, overall, it feels like this show's turning around. Looking forward to next week.
Yeah, hopefully it keeps its momentum. Like I said, it seems the less we focus on the anniversary shit, the better the show seems to be. Um, so that's good because we're basically out of the anniversary nonsense. Uh, Maybe they realized that they couldn't keep writing the same way, and so like with the way Decade's shown up, like maybe if we get cameos, they'll be like Decade. Probably not, but who knows? It would be nice if we have cameos to have more meaning. As for next week, we're still getting new episodes next week, right?
I believe so, since
Yeah.
there's going to be a Christmas Sentai episode.
Yeah, yeah. Plus, we just saw a preview, so it's most likely. I mean, considering we had it last year, I guess it makes sense. Or 2 years ago, too. So yeah. Um, Considering Christmas is on Tuesday, I mean, we might just move them both to Wednesday or something. Listeners. So, yeah, we might take Tuesday off. Um, yeah, we'll probably just do them both on Wednesday. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, like there might be a episode on Tuesday. It's unlikely because it's Christmas. So yeah, next week most likely both the episodes are gonna be either Wednesday, Thursday, or just on Wednesday. But as for this show, um, yeah, this episode was good, and I guess we'll catch you guys next week. See ya.
Thanks for listening.